Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, we'll be discussing how to solve basic adjustment problems, or rather if we have certain simple adjustments which can be solved using the trading account, profit and loss account and balance sheet. So the nearest adjustments that we have to do using all these adjustments like outstanding rent, outstanding liabilities, prepaid expenses, prepaid amount, etc. Like these adjustments will be dealt with in this illustration. So let's figure it out. So now when we talk about basic adjustment problems, this will include outstanding rent, prepaid expenses or prepaid income, something like this. Plus it will also have provision for doubtful debts on debtors as well as creditors. So something like this will be a part of this illustration. Before that, let's go through this illustration and figure out what are the amounts that we have to take into consideration. That is, one being a part of trading account, second being a part of profit and loss, and third being a part of balance sheet. This is the trial balance that we have to follow. Apart from this trial balance, we'll go through the adjustments into the next sheet and then we'll start with the problem. So let's start with the illustration first. For Mr. Gopinath, we have to prepare trial balance. That means from this trial balance we have to prepare trading, profit and loss account and balance sheet as on 31st December 1986. Now let's go through the illustration and figure out which items will be a part of trading, profit or balance sheet. Capital being a balance sheet item will be a part of balance sheet liability side. Next item is drawing. Again, this is a trial balance item, hence will be subtracted from balance sheet, that is under the category of capital. Next item mentioned here is furniture. That will be a part of balance sheet asset side again. Stock as on 1st January, that is the opening stock, hence that will be a part of trading account. Purchase and sales both have been mentioned here. Again, that will be a part of trading account. Returns have been mentioned. That means purchase returns and sales returns have been mentioned here. That will be again a part of trading account. Salaries has been mentioned in this illustration, which states that it is a part of profit and loss account, as we always take salary as a part of profit and loss account statement, whereas wages being a part of trading account statement. Rent is again a part of profit and loss account. Carriage will be a part of trading account, hence it will be mentioned in the trading debit side. Rent and taxes again is a part of office and administrative expense, hence it will be a part of profit and loss account. Next, apprentice premium is again a part of profit and loss account, hence it will be something which is related to profit and loss items. Bank overdraft. Now when we talk about bank overdraft, we'll keep this category aside for now as it is a liability, hence will be a part of balance sheet liability side. Bad debts, which is a part of profit and loss account, there will be certain items related to provision for doubtful debts which will be taken care by this trial balance item. Next is sundry debtors, again a part of current assets, hence asset side balance sheet item. Cash in hand again is a balance sheet item, it's an asset for us, hence we'll be mentioning it on the asset side. Creditors again is a part of items which is supposed to be recorded on the liability side of the balance sheet, hence a balance sheet item here. Provision for bad and doubtful debts. Now provision for bad and doubtful debts is something that you'll be taking care of. However, it is a part where you need to understand that it will be a part of profit and loss account. So we'll understand where and when to use this. As it's a provision, it will be mentioned on the credit side of profit and loss account. Bills receivable is a part where it is something that you're supposed to receive. It's an asset for you, hence it is a balance sheet item. Bills payable again is a liability part, hence it will be mentioned on the liability side of the balance sheet. Now discount credit amount has been mentioned here, hence this is something which you have received as a discount. It's a profit and loss account credit item. Now that we have segregated all the items of trial balance, we'll further go ahead and see what are the adjustments that are a part of it, and then we'll check onto the adjustment details as to what are the dual effects of it. So there is one closing stock that has been mentioned here as on 31st of December 1986. 10,200. As you know, this adjustment will have two effects: trading account credit side, balance sheet asset side. Next is provide doubtful debts. That means a provision has to be created for doubtful debts. Let's see the percentage here. We have to provide for doubtful debts at 2% on sundry debtors and discount for creditors at the rate of 5%. So the two types of adjustments that we'll be doing under this is the provision account that was created, or the trial balance details that provided provision details will be affected, and debtors and creditors will have an effect on it. Rent due rupees 160, it is an outstanding, hence the first effect will be you'll be mentioning it on the liability side of balance sheet. Next, you'll be adding this amount to the rent category. That means the rent item which was mentioned in the trial balance, it will have addition of this specific amount. The next item that states is taxes paid rupees 320 in advance. It is a prepaid expense, hence you will be mentioning it on the asset side as it is a prepaid expense. Second thing is you will be subtracting this much amount from the relevant taxes and items which are mentioned in the trial balance. So just like outstanding where you add it to the expense, this you subtract it because it is prepaid. And the balance sheet effect, when it comes to outstanding, you add it to the liability side, this will be added to the asset side. Depreciate furniture at the rate of 10% is the next adjustment. Hence, this will be subtracted from the furniture amount, and the amount of depreciation will be mentioned in the profit and loss account debit side. Apprentice premium for rupees 120 was supposed to be carried forward. Now this is something that you have to subtract it from the amount. That means it's an outstanding amount. Hence, you'll be mentioning on the amount which has been mentioned in the credit side. As it is a premium, hence it has been already mentioned on the credit side. So of profit and loss account, this will be recorded on the profit and loss account credit side, and as a liability, it will be mentioned in the balance sheet item. Interest on capital 5% per annum. This will be added to the capital. However, it is an expense for us. Hence, it will be mentioned on the profit and loss account debit side. So now that we have gone through all the adjustments and we know what all changes we have to make, let's prepare the trading account and see whether we have a gross profit or gross loss in this situation. So now that we have prepared the specimen for trading account, we'll be further going ahead as to what all details are supposed to be mentioned in this trading account. So let's go ahead with marking all the items that are marked as T and the trial balance which was shown in this specific illustration. That means all the debit items of trading account and all the credit items with the necessary adjustments will be shown inside this trading account. Let's start with the opening stock. So now that we have mentioned all the items of trading account here, that means we have prepared the trading account. We'll be further going and understanding what is the net profit and net loss. So before that, we'll prepare the interim balance here. And before preparing the interim balance, whatever purchase amount and sales amount details were mentioned, we'll subtract the returns amount from it, and then we'll figure out. However, if you have mentioned in the trial balance, you could have seen or you could have observed that purchase and sales both had debit and credit balance, and similarly returns. So purchase will always have debit balance, hence that amount has been mentioned here. However, purchase returns will have credit balance, hence that amount will be subtracted. If you just directly subtract the amount that has been mentioned in the order there, you might go ahead wrong with this thing. Hence, make sure that the debit and credit amount are checked and then they're mentioned in this trading account to avoid any kind of errors. Similarly with sales and sales return, sales will have a credit balance, whereas sales return will have a debit balance, and accordingly that amount will be subtracted. So let's subtract that amount and figure out the net purchase and net sales, and then we'll find the interim balance here. Also, as a part of calculation, closing stock, which was a part of adjustments, has been mentioned here. So that means first effect of closing stock has been given, second will be given when we prepare the balance sheet out there. So let's prepare the trading account interim balance now. So if you can see from the interim balance, the debit side is lower as compared to the credit side, which states that we have a gross profit here. Now that we have a gross profit, we'll be finalizing the gross profit amount, which will be then transferred in the preparation of profit and loss account. So let's finalize the gross profit amount and then see how that turns the sum completely when we start with the profit and loss account, which will have various adjustments in it. So with this, we have completed the specimen of trading account. We have figured out the gross profit. We have made necessary adjustments in this trading account. Now we'll go ahead and further prepare the specimen of profit and loss account and see what all items are supposed to be mentioned in there and what are the adjustments that we need to take care of in it. So let's figure it out. So now that we've prepared the specimen of profit and loss account, let's go ahead with transferring the gross profit on the credit side first. The gross profit has been transferred now. So we'll first go ahead with all the items that has no adjustments. We'll record all of them down first, and after that we'll go ahead with the items which are related to profit and loss account which has adjustments in it. We'll go ahead with the preparation of profit and loss adjustment details now. So there are certain items that have been already recorded. Let's record all of them and figure out whether we have net profit or net loss. So with this, now that we have recorded all the items in here, we'll discuss each of these items so that you get clarity as to which item is recorded on which side and why is it recorded there. We'll go with the first item first. Salaries has no adjustments. It has been mentioned there itself. That means profit and loss account debit side. Depreciation on the furniture at the rate of 10% was mentioned. Furniture amount as an asset is 5,700. That means 10% depreciation on it will be mentioned as 570 rupees, which is mentioned on the profit and loss account debit side. Rent amount, which was mentioned as 720, we had to add outstanding rent of 160 to it, which has been mentioned here. That means adding outstanding rent. The second effect of this will be in the balance sheet liability side. Interest on capital was mentioned in the amount or in the adjustments which are mentioned in the illustrations. So we have taken care of that here. That means total of capital amount which was mentioned in the trial balance, on that a certain percentage of interest on capital has been taken, which has been mentioned in the illustration, and that being a part of expense here as we have to give it out, hence that specific amount of interest on capital has been taken care of and hence it has been mentioned there itself. Let's go to the next item mentioned here. Rates and taxes had been mentioned in the profit and loss account. The reason why is because it is an expense in the first scenario. Second part, this amount was mentioned in the trial balance. Apart from this, there is an adjustment whereby there is certain tax that has been paid in advance. That means prepaid amount. Whenever there is a prepaid amount, we need to go further and understand that prepaid amount will be further subtracted from that specific expense. And if you can see in this specific profit and loss transaction, we have subtracted that much amount here. Hence, this amount has been subtracted and the total amount will be taken in the outer column. Now, the provision for bad debts details have been mentioned. So, bad debts have been mentioned in the amount or in the trial balance mentioned as 1032. Existing provision that was stated was for a certain amount. Now, this amount will be mentioned here. If you see, there is one amount mentioned in the bracket. I'll highlight it. The adjustment stated that we had to create a provision on sundry debtors for a certain specific amount or a certain percentage. Now, this will be additional provision that is required or that is created. We have certain amount that is already a part of provision. That means if you see, provision is something that is already created in the earlier year. That means existing provision. That provision will be always subtracted from the bad debts and the total provision that is required for the current year. Hence, that amount has been into brackets as highlighted, because that amount will be subtracted out of what? The amount that has been mentioned as bad debts plus the provision that is required for the current year. So what you are going to do here is that the provision that is required for the current year will be added to the bad debts amount that is already mentioned into the trial balance, and out of that you will subtract the existing provision. That means the provision that was created last year. The final amount will be then moved to the outer column. Hence, this transaction has been mentioned in the profit and loss account debit side. Let's figure out some more details on this. Apart from gross profit being carried down, we also have apprentice premium. Now, apprentice premium is an credit amount that is supposed to be received. Hence, there is something which is already there or already carried forward. Hence, that amount will be subtracted from this amount. That's the reason, if you can see, there is a subtraction mentioned there. It will be also shown in the balance sheet sides. Now, let's go on to the next item here. Discount received as discount in the trial balance had credit balance. That's the reason this will be a discount received. If it had debit balance, it would have been a part of discount allowed. That's the reason, or that is the difference between credit balance of discount and debit balance of discount. So if there is a discount debit allowed there, that means it is a discount allowed. If there is a credit balance for discount, that is a discount received. Hence, it is mentioned on the credit side of profit and loss account. Now, apart from this, there is a provision for discount on creditors at the rate of 2%. That's the reason when we talk about 6,000 being sundry creditors is the balance of sundry creditors, on that 2% will give you 120 rupees, which has been shown there. So that amount has been mentioned here as a provision that has been created in the current year. As this is a provision, hence it will have a credit balance. Make sure you don't rectify this thing, or you don't take it as a misconception as a credit means income. This is a provision that we have created for our own benefit, because tomorrow if there is an income, this is a non-notional expense, we can call it as. Hence, once this amount is provided here, that will always have a credit balance. Creditors is something to whom we have to pay. So if you're getting a discount there and there itself, or a provision is being credited, it will always have a credit balance. So make sure this amount is always mentioned on the credit side. So with this, we have a closure of all the items that are supposed to be recorded into the profit and loss account. Now the next step that we'll be doing here is that whatever inner column items that are supposed to be adjusted, we'll do that adjustments, and then we'll take that amount in the outer column and figure out whether we have a net profit or whether we have a net loss in this situation. So let's go ahead and calculate the amount of the inner items, and then we'll move it to the outer column. Let's do it. So we have figured out that all the necessary internal adjustments have been made, and we have a total in the outer column. Now let's figure out whether we have a net profit or net loss in this situation. So if you can see the calculations that we have made here, that means the debit side total is less as compared to the credit side total. Hence, what we'll be doing here is that we have figured out that we have net profit in this situation. Hence, the net profit will be then moved to the capital balance, that will be added to the capital balance rather. Hence, in this specific specimen, or rather in this specimen of profit and loss account preparation, we have figured out that there is a profit here, that is net profit. We'll calculate the net profit amount, that is the difference between the credit side minus debit side. That balance will be further moved to the addition of capital accounts. So let's finalize and let's close this profit and loss account statement, and then we'll further go ahead with the preparation of balance sheet. So with this, we have figured out that 2528 is the balance, or is the amount of net profit which we can have to, or which will have to further add to the capital balance. With this, we close the profit and loss account statement. So let's prepare the balance sheet for Mr. Gopinath as of 31st December 1986. And with this, we'll go ahead and close the balance sheet as well. Make sure while preparing balance sheet, you also have to understand that there is no debit side and credit side, but you either have an asset side and a liability side there. So make sure the specimen is correct because you might lose marks on that specific specimen as well. We've prepared the specimen for balance sheet. We'll further go ahead and mark down all the liabilities item and all the asset items with the necessary adjustments, and then we'll figure out whether the liabilities total equals to the asset total or not. So let's go ahead and mark down all the totals mentioned here. So if you can see with this, we have mentioned all the items necessary within the liabilities and the asset part. That means all the asset and liability balance have been covered in this specific system. Now, after balance sheet and assets have been covered here with the necessary items, the last part of this specific transaction or this specific illustration refers to whether the liability balance equals the asset balance or not. So we'll figure out, but before that, all the interim balances, that means the inner column transaction amounts, will be finalized and then moved to the outer column to make sure that the liabilities balance equals to the asset balance. Hence, we have taken care of all the necessary adjustments. But before going through all the necessary adjustments or before going through the totals, let's go through all the adjustment effects that we have taken consideration in this balance sheet. Let's go with the first one. There was an interest on capital which was mentioned in this specific sum which has been added. Apart from that, net profit has been added there and drawings has been subtracted from it. Outstanding rent and outstanding apprentice premium were termed as liabilities, hence they have been mentioned as a dual effect in this specific liability side. Creditors and provision for discount on creditors has been subtracted. That means out of sundry creditors, the provision that was created, that was mentioned on the credit side of profit and loss account, has been subtracted from this amount. Hence, this has been mentioned here. Now, let's go on to the asset side. We had furniture out of which depreciation was supposed to be subtracted. If you can see, we have highlighted that. Let's go ahead and underline it. Depreciation has been subtracted from it. That is one adjustment towards the asset side. Let's go and figure out the next adjustment, which is referred to the debtors amount. So debtors and the provision for bad debts that were created has been subtracted from this amount, and the total amount will be mentioned in the outer column. So we have covered all the necessary adjustments in this balance sheet. Let's go ahead and figure out what all details have to be mentioned in the outer column. So with this, we have mentioned all the items that were a part of balance sheet, that means asset side as well as liability side. We have figured out the total and we have mentioned it in the outer column as well. Now let's see whether the total of liability side is equal to the total of asset side or not. So the total of asset side is coming as 35,618. We have to make sure that this is the same total that is reflecting on the liability side. So let's total the liability side. In the meantime, you can also total it on your side just to check whether the sum is correct or not, or whether the postings have been done correct or not. Let's go ahead and do it. So if you can see with the illustrations that has been mentioned here, both the total of liability side as well as the asset side is coming as 35,618, 35,618. That means the balance sheet is correct. There is no flaws in preparation of trading account as well as profit and loss account, and hence with this you have understood that with the usage of correct replications of the effects of adjustments, you can prepare a balance sheet which is flawless. You can prepare a trading and profit and loss account which has no errors in it. So make sure whenever these adjustments are given, you make a working note of it. All the necessary adjustments are posted in the right place, and before that, all the accounts that are going to get affected, mark them. That will make it very easy for you as to which account has to be taken care of and which account has not to be left with. So I hope this account or this illustration gives you a lot of clarity about how to prepare balance sheet when it is about basic adjustments problem being a part of this illustration. So thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and keep subscribing to Ekeeda.